Alright, I'm working on this 2012 Chevrolet Cruze and I'm going to be replacing the starter on this today. I've already kind of checked it out and I know that it's bad. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you some of the tools you'll need to get. Okay, so if you're going to be doing any work on these cars, one of the things that you're going to have to get is some of these e-torques, and you can't just find these anywhere. Sometimes you can find small sets of them, but this is goes from E4 up to E24. You know, for like 25 bucks you can get yourself a set. So these have a lot of e-torques on these cars. You're going to need to get you some of those. Another tool that we're going to be needing to disconnect the fuel, so you're going to need something like this. These work. These are really cheap, and this has an assortment of sizes, and I believe it's like the 3/8 that we're going to be using. We're going to need a magnet. We've got 13 millimeter, 10 millimeter. I've got a little 10 millimeter ratchet wrench and just a 3/8 ratchet, a couple of extensions, flat screwdriver, and then I have a little 1/4 inch ratchet here with a 7 millimeter. Which I'm going to use that on getting a band, or you could use a flat. So it's pretty much what you're going to need. Like, the most important, you're going to need this, and you're going to need a fuel disconnect. This, you know, says air conditioning or fuel line disconnect. So you're going to need that. So we're going to go ahead and get under the hood here and get started. Okay, the very first thing we want to do for starters is get our negative cable off here. Just go ahead and loosen that up. Completely remove that. Get that out of the way. Okay, next thing we're going to do is just lift this little shroud up off of there. And so it just pops on our little plastic clips. Okay, the next thing we want to do over here where this intake is coming in, we're going to go ahead and pull this little safety lock back right here. Just give that a pull back, push down, and push down really hard, and you should be able to pull that back. So we're going to disconnect that, and then when we're at it, you can use a flat right here to loosen this band up. I'm just using a 7 millimeter. And just loosen it up really good, and we'll just pull that back and off of that throttle housing there. We got a connector here we could disconnect. It's really not necessary to get enough slack to pull it back off there, but you could disconnect that if you like. You can see that we've got that loose from the housing down there. Okay, you can see we got an assortment of things connected to this intake. We're going to be removing. We're going to start here with this fuel. Now this should have a little lanyard on it, but basically you just pop this little thing over, and that will just lift right down. It just goes down under and kind of locks, helps lock that on there. Keep it from moving. We'll set that aside. Now we're going to get our fuel disconnect. Now right over here we have it's like the pressure tester. So you could relieve that pressure here if you want, pushing down on that Schrader, and or you could just pull your fuel relay, and you could run it well, if your starter ain't working, you ain't going to do that, but if it was running, you could burn the fuel out. But anyways, you want to relieve the pressure, or you can do like a lot of times I do, is put a rag around this as you're taking this loose. So we're going to go ahead and get our disconnect tool. Okay, I'm just snapping this hose here out of the way so I can give you a better view. I'm just twisting that around a little bit. But this is the one that works the best, it seems. So that's the one I'm going to be using. It has a split, and you just work it on there. and then just give it a push up. And I mean, it's not just going to pull off real easy. You're going to have to wiggle it and work it just a little bit. Like I said, if you've got pressure, make sure to use a rag as you're doing this. Okay, so it is still okay. So there we go. Now also right here we've got a little clip that needs to pop up right there, and we'll just get that completely over out of the way. That's just a little plastic clip. So while we're at it, we'll go ahead, we'll get this vacuum, just pull back on that, just pushed it with one hand, give that pull off of there. You see how it snaps down into this little V. Just give that a pull up out of there the best way you can, get that loose. We've got another connector right here. Now yours may or may not have a safety lock. This one here does not. So I'm just giving it a push right here, and it will just pull off of here, or it should at least. I said sometimes these can really stick. It's pretty much this one here you lift up on and it'll pop loose for you. This one back here you have to squeeze it. Well, actually, maybe incorrect. That was just lift up on that one as well. You can see it just clips on there. Just give that a lift up. Now some of these connectors, depending on the year, are going to be different, so don't quote me to be exact on that. But we've got this vacuum loose, we got our fuel loose, we've got these two connectors loose, we've got this right here. I'm going to give you a better view of this. Okay, on this hose you've got, you see how that little wire is clipped on there and it's kind of pointed up. Really all you have to do, you see the little notches right there on the side, all you have to do is take a screwdriver and push that up just a little bit there. Let's see if I can do it with my finger. It doesn't want to. Okay, let me get a screwdriver. Okay, so I've got a screwdriver here. Now this thing may pop completely off on you, which it's perfectly fine if it does that, but it should be able just to pull up with this just a little bit. And see, I popped it in that other side. I felt it click. You see where it pops to there? And same on that side. So that's where it's supposed to go. Said it may come completely off on you, and once you got it to that point, this spring's not holding it. Give this a tug. You see it's got like an O-ring in there, but you can see that wire, how it goes down through there, and then it locks in the grooves that are on this. So anyways, we got that loose and out of the way there. Right here, you squeeze on this on both sides. Right there, you got one on the other side. Squeeze that together and give that a tug up. Sometimes they're really difficult to do, so you really have to squeeze these in quite a bit. So there's that. So we've got that loose. So that's the only other thing connected there. So now what we're gonna do is we got this coolant hose running in the back. You see how it's clipped on. it's clipped to the back. You're going to have to get that off of there. I'll give you a, see how it clips to the back of this. Get a screwdriver or whatever and pop that off there. So there's that clip. Clips down to the back of that. Now we also got some wires here that are just kind of clipped down into the top where these fuel injectors are. You can see them right here. Just pull that out of there, just kind of pop it loose because it's going to get in the way. And we've got, so this wire here was clipped right here. I got that popped out. Now there is this little wire here, or it's a little tube, but rather a little vacuum that runs all the way around. It connects down there. Now I don't want to really disconnect it there, so what I do is I'll run it up through here because it runs all up through here. It's even taped right here. You have to cut that tape loose, and it'll run down around here to the bottom down there on your turbo. Just take your flat screwdriver and pop that loose there. Okay, so I got my flat screwdriver. Just gonna pop that off right there. And so now I know that that's loose. It's like clipped in here and various places. It's just a really flimsy little, we're just gonna pop that loose so we can take it up as a whole. Okay, now one of the other things that is going to be connected is these injectors that are plugged in here. Now you'll notice that there is a wire clip that goes on here. It's very difficult to kind of see at this point. So what I'm going to do is start taking the bolts loose, and then we'll kind of get to those because they're really easy to remove. There are a couple of wires that have little plastic clips that are on the very bottom of this that you really can't get loose until you get the intake loose from the cylinder head. So we're going to wait on those, but they are there, and it's going to be the only other thing holding it. So at this point we're going to get back here, and we've got 6 of these E-Torques that we have to remove. These are E10s. So we got one out here, we've got a couple there, we've got a couple more here, one down on the end. So we're going to go ahead and start removing those. Okay, and this is an engine that I've got out here. It's going to give you a better view of what I'm talking about here, but you can see how these E-Torques are set up. And as far as the wire clips that I'm talking about, you've got so this wire that clipped into the side. You've got a clip right here on this wire that you have to pop off once it's loose. And then there's like another one right down here that you'll need to get loose. Those are going to be holding to the bottom of your intake when you get it all loose. But you can see, so we got our E10, and we can just come in through here. I've got a, you know, like a 6-inch extension or so, and you move, once the wire's out of the way, it's very easy to get in here to this, and we just start taking these loose one at a time. And if they're not messed up or corroded, there's like a locking collar on the bolt that's going to prevent it from just falling out, but don't count on it. So get yourself a magnet or something. If it comes completely loose, just take those things completely out of there. So there's also a wire right there on that one. You don't need to remove that if it'll stay in place, because you don't want to forget to get that connected back there. So that's all there is at this point, and then this is ready to come out of here. So we're going to go ahead and get over onto the car there and work on getting it the rest of the way out. Okay, so it's tricky to show you everything in here, but I'm just working from the back side. These are not difficult to get loose. I said these are corroded, so I'm going to be just completely removing these. I'm just getting the first 2 here, and they're coming real easy. Probably spin them most of the way just by hand. So this is just the first two that are together over here on the passenger side. So we've got 6 of them all together. And I'm going to get, if they do fall down on you, you can probably get to them once the intake's out of the way. But the key is to have yourself a magnet if they do come loose, so they're not getting lost, because sometimes it gets really difficult to find these things. So we got one right over here too. We're going to get on that. I'm going to get that one next here. So they're not very tight. Once you get them loose there, just spin them out by hand pretty well. So this is the first 3 that are pretty well loose. Okay, so I've been taking these bolts out, just using my little magnet up there. This is the bolts, just going in, fishing those out. Now, that one down there is the only one that actually stayed. I guess the collar wasn't too rusty on it. Right here is the injector clip. Now, all you do is pop this back, and like I said, usually they just fly completely off of here, but you want to pop that back, preferably without losing it. That's all there is to that. Just taking each of those off, and then that will pop that right off there. If you need to, and it's pretty self-explanatory where they go, but if you need to, you can label these, number them, whatever. I've already went ahead and got the other ones, the clips out. See, once I've got it loose, I was able to pull this back, and it's easier to get to these. So I can just pop these off. So now my injectors are loose, and we've got everything but those 2 wire clips on the bottom that I was showing you on the engine are going to be connected. Now that's probably going to be your harder thing. You're going to have to go down in there with a screwdriver, and you're going to have to pop these off of the bottom of this intake here, or they're going to hang up on you, and you're not going to be able to pull this up. Now at this point, so I've already went down in there and popped those loose. I've got everything disconnected. Be aware that gas will pour out of this if you're not careful and hold that end up, or you have something to stop it up with. So here is this. You can see that wire is completely connected. I would say, you know, you're doing your starter, it's probably time to do these intakes. Very good idea to go ahead and replace them and clean your throttle housing up while you got this thing out. So here it is. So not much to it. It seems like a lot. You're going to say, you know, oh my gosh, that's a lot of stuff to disconnect. It's really nothing. It's very simple to disconnect that stuff, and you're not having to work under the vehicle, which there's no room under there. You got exhaust in the way, CV axles in the way. It's not fun, and you can't see what you're doing on this top. So now, as you can see, we can look down in here. We can easily see where our starter is. You see the bolt, 13 millimeter on the top. There is another one on the bottom there. It's got a stud on it. You can see right there, it's got a wire. There's a 13 millimeter right there that you can see has to be removed, and then that wire pops off, and then another 13 millimeter studded bolt holding on the bottom. Now I like to take the bottom one off first, simply because it seems to be easier, and then get the top one up here last. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our 13 millimeter nut. We're going to take this loose right here. Not very difficult. Okay, so we're going to work on this top one here first. If I can get so these things aren't very tight. It's a matter of breaking it loose. Okay, there is that one. That will just pop right off. Now we've got a 10 millimeter to get. Let me grab my 10. We're going to get right, it's right underneath here. Okay, and then that one's loose, and I should be able just to spin it off there by hand. It's just a small 10 millimeter. Just be careful not to drop it, like I just about did. Okay, so we got our, we're going to take that wire. So there's the one to go into the 10, there's the one going to the 13. So now we're going to go ahead and get on our 13 millimeter with the studded bolt down here. Said it's kind of difficult to get into a position to show you both, but I'm working on getting the nut holding this wire that you see here. And once I got that, then we've got the studded bolt that's going to be actually bolting the starter down. It says nothing difficult. Okay, so there is the 13 that's holding the wire. So this wire right here goes on to that studded bolt. Now I'm going to go down. I'm going to get a hold of that. And this may be fairly tight, so you may need a cheater pipe or a long extension to get it loose there. And you just kind of, I'm just kind of feeling for it here. I know where it's at. I just got this wire in my way here. So anyways, so once you get these broke loose, they're going to come out of there very easily. And I'm not having any trouble reaching this and reaching around here from the top. So there's that studded bolt, 13 millimeter. That's on the bottom. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get on this top one. Say we see right here, this is our top 13, and this is the only thing that's left holding this. So once we get this broke loose, we'll probably be able to spin it out by hand too. And you can see that the starter's starting to fall down there. I'm gonna get my other hand on it before it gets away from me. But this bolt's coming out of here, no problem. I'm just spinning it out with my fingers here. So there it is, and you notice that it didn't actually fall. And we've got it loose, we got the wires loose, so it's ready just to slide out. And this thing is no good. Okay, here's a look of it out here. So replacing this is just going to be the reverse process. Okay, and because it's hard to show you on the other, I'm just going to show you on this engine how we're going to get this back into place here. So it's going to set like that, and then we've got our studded bolt going on to the bottom. Of course, we would have the wires are cut on this one. When they ship them, they cut all of the wires, so you have to use your own harness. But there is that one on the bottom. Now what we would have is we'd have our wire coming up here and going on there. We'd have this tight, and then we'd put this, our wire, and then we'd put this bolt or this nut, and we'd fasten that down. And then for the top, we're just gonna go up here with this one, and we're gonna secure that one in just like that. And the only other thing we're going to have to do is slip our wire, 10mm, our wire, and our 13mm right here, and then we've got it into place. Okay, so just to pick up where we left it off, we got it bolted down, and just get it tight. You know, if you want to torque it, I probably wouldn't go more than 25 to 30 foot-pounds. I don't usually fuss with torque on every little thing. I always say. Right now I'm just slipping on the lower 10mm here. Now just advice as far as getting your starter in, you just kind of have to look, start that top bolt and just kind of twist it until you get it to line up just right. The bottom one should go into place really easy. At this point, you're just going to take your 10mm and tighten, get your ratchet and tighten that down. We're going to go ahead and slip this on. These don't have to be that tight. Get that on there, and we're going to get our 13 right on here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and just snug those up a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and work on getting our intake back in place. See, you can see here these clips, which really are not necessary on the bottom of that intake. They're just something else to have to fool with, but if you want to clip them back, go ahead and clip them back. If you do break it, you can always just zip tie it. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and slip that. Now this hose here, I will be clipping back on, so it's being supported. But we're going to go ahead and get just snug those down, and we're going to start slipping our intake back in. Okay, so let's start getting the intake. Now I will say you could cover these up with some clean towels. The intake ports, you want to make sure you don't get any debris down in there for sure. But I'm just going to work this back in. It's kind of like how we took it out, and we'll start getting our wires and everything back in place here. So this kind of fastens to there. So we'll go ahead and start working on our bolts and stuff here. We'll start working them in. Actually, before we do that, we want to make sure that we've got our clips on here. We want to make sure that we get these clips back into place here. So I need to get those. We'll start slipping those on. Okay, these clips are super easy to slip on. Just to show you, I just kind of start them into the groove on one side or the other, and just push it on there like that. That's all there is to that. Okay, I'm just starting the first bolt on the intake into place. It does have a plastic peg for alignment, and you'll see it when you... Now, another suggestion I would make is getting these bolts started with a magnet, probably. I didn't do that just now, but it's real easy to drop these, and it's going to make things a lot harder on you, so that's not a bad idea. Anytime you know you're this close, you start dropping stuff, it gets rather aggravating. So anyway, I'm going to go find my magnet, and I'm just putting these last few in, and we're going to start snugging these down. Okay, I've got them snugged down. I'm going to be going back through with my inch pound, and we're just going to be going 120 inch on these. You don't want to go crazy. Start in the middle and work your way out. So we're going to do that. We're going to go through here and just go 120 on these. Okay, so we're going to go start reconnecting some things here now. Nothing difficult. We've got our wires that are going to go back over here. This one's going to here, just give that a push. So depending on your year model, you may have some locking tabs or whatever, but they're going to be different. But basically the same thing, just give this a push all the way on, push that up. Now our fuel is going to go back in here, just give that a push down all the way till it clicks. Put it back in its little spot here, snap that down. We've got our little safety that slips under there, just like that. This goes pushed back down in there. This wire we're going to route back over here. It kind of, like I said, it was taped to this at one time. Not a big deal. We're just going to kind of feed it back around. So now we've got this actually goes down here, and I need to push it back down under there. I don't know why it's not already there. That goes in there. Okay, so that looks good. All of our injectors are connected. We've got our fuel, we've got these lines, we've got this one right here. Just pushes down, you don't have to do anything but just pop it down. Said it's not a lot of stuff. We've got this little vacuum. Remember, it just clips right into here, back into that. Push it down on there good. Push that back on there, and you can confirm. See, I didn't get it that time, so I'm gonna have to redo it here. Okay, when you push it down on there, you should hear a bit of a snap. I didn't do that the first time, so again, double check, because if it pulls back off of there, then you don't have it right. Okay, so we've got that. Everything's looking good here. It doesn't look like we've missed anything. So you see how simple that is. Definitely easier than going underneath. So now we need to get back here, and we need to get on this right here. We just route it back down here the way that it was. And it just goes down under there like so, and we'll refasten that. Okay, you can see we got that slip back on there, and it just kind of pops right back on this little piece. Not that critical, but that's where it goes. So, said everything over here looks good, and it's all secured. Okay, now we're over here. We're just going to get our intake reconnected. We got to tighten that 7mm or that flat. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that now. Okay, so I've got my 7mm. I'm just going to tighten that band back. Doesn't have to be crazy tight, just get it snug. I'm just using a little 1/4 inch. Right, and now we'll just slip this connector back on, nothing to it. Just push it till it snaps, and then push the safety lock back up. Okay, we'll go ahead and get our negative reconnected. Okay, one thing that I did do was reconnect this. I popped that clip back into the back of that intake to help support that. Alright, so that's going to do it on this video, replacing the starter. As you can see, it's really not that difficult removing this intake, and it gives you an opportunity to replace those gaskets while you're in there. Definitely looks easier to me than going through the bottom. I looked at doing it that way. I know there's videos on that, so you know, if you want to go that route, you're more than welcome to. But it looked like it was going to be more difficult to get to those top bolts and the nuts and stuff with the wires. So, but this here is not that bad. I'm telling you, it's pretty easy, other than just you know, removing your fuel line and disconnecting those injectors. But it's all real simple and just a matter of putting it back together. It's very easy, and you can also go through and label it if you need to do that. So anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and as always, I invite you to subscribe, and thank you for watching.